I was standing in my own kitchen, wooden spoon still in my hand, when my daughter-in-law, Shanice, snatched my phone off the counter, and her eyes went wide as dinner plates. $22 million? She screamed so loud that every conversation in my house stopped dead. Mama Lorraine, you got $22 million in your bank account? My stomach dropped to my feet. I'd left my banking app open. Stupid. So stupid. After 67 years of being careful, one careless moment, and now the whole family knew. My son Terrell rushed into the kitchen, his wife Keisha right behind him. My daughter Monique came running from the dining room where she'd been complaining about the macaroni and cheese not having enough cheese. My youngest, Bryant, pushed through the doorway, nearly knocking over my good china cabinet. All 4 of my children. Their spouses, and within seconds, all 9 of my grandchildren crowded into my small kitchen on what was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday dinner after church. "Let me see that," Terrell demanded, ripping the phone from Shanice's hand. His face went from confusion to shock to something ugly I'd never seen before. Greed. Pure greed. "Ma, this says you got $38 million. $38 million!" The wooden spoon clattered to the floor. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me tell you how I got here, to this moment when my whole life turned inside out like a cheap umbrella in a storm. My name is Lorraine Hayes, and for 43 years, I worked as a cook at Riverside Elementary School. Not a chef, mind you. A cook. The kind that wore a hairnet and served sloppy joes to hundreds of children who barely looked at me. The kind that stood on swollen feet for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, making sure babies had hot meals. The kind that came home smelling like grease and industrial cleaner, too tired to do much more than heat up leftovers for my own children. My husband Robert died when I was 42. Heart attack took him on a Tuesday morning before work. Left me with 4 children under 18 and a mortgage I couldn't afford on my salary. I took on weekend catering jobs. I cleaned houses. I did hair in my kitchen. I sold plates of food after church services. I did whatever it took to keep my babies fed and that roof over our heads. My children don't remember those years the way I do. They remember having food, clothes, and a home. They don't remember me crying in the bathroom at midnight, trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill. They don't remember me wearing the same 3 outfits for 2 years, so they could have new shoes for school. They don't remember that I never, not once, asked anybody for help. I paid off that house by the time I was 55. Every extra dollar went to that mortgage. And when it was mine, free and clear, I started putting money away. Really putting it away. See, I'd learned something about money that most people don't know. My cousin DeAndre worked in finance, and one Christmas, after too much eggnog, he told me about investments, stocks, bonds, index funds, things I'd never heard of. He said even a little bit of money, invested right and left alone, could grow into something real. I started with $50 a month, then $100. Then, when I picked up more catering work, $200. I learned everything I could from library books and, later, YouTube videos. I bought stocks in companies I knew, McDonald's, Walmart, Coca-Cola. I bought into index funds. I reinvested every dividend, and I never touched it. When I retired at 63, I had about $4 million saved. $4 million from a school cook's salary and side hustles. But I didn't stop there. The stock market kept climbing. My investments kept growing. And by the time I turned 67, that $4 million had grown to $38 million. $38 million. And I still lived in my small, paid-off house on Elmwood Avenue. Still drove my 2008 Honda Accord. Still shopped at Aldi and clipped coupons. Still cooked Sunday dinners for my ungrateful children who thought I was just a broke old lady with nothing but my Social Security and my memories. Why didn't I tell them? Why didn't I help them with their bills, their mortgages, their children's college funds? because not one of them had ever helped me. When I needed someone to drive me to my knee surgery 3 years ago, they were all too busy. I took an Uber. When my roof started leaking last winter, I asked Terrell, who owns a construction company, if he could help. He said he'd send someone by. Nobody ever came. I paid a stranger $4,000 to fix it. When I had pneumonia and spent 4 days in the hospital 2 years ago, Monique came to visit once. Once. She stayed for 20 minutes and spent 15 of them on her phone. My church family, Mother Patricia and Deacon Williams and Sister Claudette, they were the ones who brought me home, who checked on me, who made sure I had food and medicine. My children called me maybe once a month, always when they needed something. Ma, can you babysit? Ma, can you make your potato salad for my office party? Ma, can you hem these pants? Never. Ma, how are you? Never. Ma, do you need anything? Never. Ma, thank you for everything you did for us. So I kept my mouth shut and my bank account private. I told myself that when I died, they'd get everything anyway. The will was already written, equal shares for all 4 of them. But while I was alive, while I could still breathe and think and make my own decisions, that money was mine. Now they all knew. And the looks on their faces told me everything I needed to know about what came next. You been lying to us? Monique's voice was shrill, accusatory. All this time letting us struggle, letting us think you was barely getting by? I never lied, I said quietly, bending to pick up my wooden spoon. My knees cracked. Y'all never asked. Never asked? Bryant laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Ma, you living like you poor. You got us bringing you groceries, giving you gift cards for your birthday. We been feeling sorry for you. Nobody asked you to feel sorry for me, I said, stirring the pot of collard greens that nobody was going to appreciate now. And for the record, y'all brought me groceries twice in 3 years. Both times it was food y'all didn't want. That's not the point, Terrell's voice was rising. The point is you got money, serious money, and you've been sitting on it while your own children struggle. I turned around slowly, looked my oldest son right in his eyes. Struggle? Terrell, you just bought a boat. A boat. Keisha posts pictures from vacation every other month. Your daughter goes to private school that costs $20,000 a year. That's struggling? Keisha stepped forward, her finger pointed at my face. That's our business. What we do with our money is our business. But you're our mother. You're supposed to help family. I am helping family, I said. I cook for y'all every single Sunday. I babysit whenever you call, even when my arthritis is acting up. I hem clothes, I give advice, I pray for you. What more do you want? Money, Shanice shouted. We want what's ours, you old Mama Lorraine. You don't need $38 million. You're gonna die and leave it all anyway. Why not share it now? The room went silent. Even the grandchildren who'd been playing in the living room stopped their noise. What's yours? I repeated slowly. Baby, I earned every single penny of that money. Not $1 came from your daddy's life insurance. Not $1 came from inheritance. I worked for it. I saved it. I invested it. And it's mine. You being selfish, Monique said, and several heads nodded in agreement. You got more money than you could spend in 3 lifetimes, and your own blood is struggling. That's wrong, Ma. That's just wrong. I looked around at my children, my grandchildren, my children's spouses, all staring at me like I was the villain in my own story, like I'd done something terrible by being responsible with money they didn't even know I had. Y'all need to leave, I said quietly. Dinner is over. We ain't going nowhere, Terrell said, crossing his arms. Not until we settle this. Not until you do right by your family. I said leave. My voice was stronger now. This is my house. I want you out. Your house that we thought we'd inherit, Bryant muttered. Probably leaving it all to some church or charity, ain't you? That's what old people do. Give away their kids' inheritance to strangers. Something in his words hit me like a slap. Was that what they thought? That I was just a bank account with a pulse? That my only value was what I could give them when I died? Get out, I said again. All of you, now. They left slowly, reluctantly, like children being sent to bed without dessert. But the looks they gave me weren't childlike. They were calculating, cold. Terrell stopped at the door and turned back. This ain't over, Ma, he said. We gonna talk about this. We gonna figure this out. That money is family money whether you like it or not. I closed the door behind them and locked it. Locked the deadbolt, too. Then I went to my kitchen and looked at all the food I'd spent all day preparing. Turkey wings, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, candied yams, cornbread, peach cobbler. All sitting there getting cold. All cooked for people who didn't appreciate any of it. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd done homework with my babies, where I'd paid bills and cried over bank statements, where I'd taught my grandchildren to play dominoes. And I knew, deep in my bones, that everything had just changed. My phone rang. It was Terrell. I didn't answer. It rang again. Monique, then Bryant, then Shanice, then Keisha. They called 15 times in an hour. I turned my phone off. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the looks on their faces, the greed, the entitlement, the way they'd turned on me in seconds, like I was nothing but an obstacle between them and money. By Monday morning, I'd made a decision. I called my lawyer, Marcus Thornton, a good brother who went to my church and had handled my will years ago. Mr. Thornton, I said when he answered, I need to make some changes, right away. Of course, Sister Hayes. What kind of changes? Everything, I said. I need to change everything. That afternoon, I sat in his office and rewrote my will. I set up trusts for my grandchildren that their parents couldn't touch until the kids turned 25. I made substantial donations to my church, to the school where I'd worked, to the community center that fed hungry children, and I put the rest in a foundation that would give scholarships to kids who needed them. My children would get nothing, not $1. Sister Hayes, Mr. Thornton said carefully, are you sure about this? Disinheriting your children entirely. That's a big step. I'm sure, I said. They made it clear what I'm worth to them, so I'm making it clear what they're worth to me. I went home feeling lighter than I had in years. I'd taken my power back, my money, my choice. But I underestimated how far greed could push people, even family, especially family. On Wednesday, there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman in a business suit holding a clipboard. Behind her stood Terrell and Monique. I opened the door. What's this? Mrs. Hayes, the woman said, her smile not reaching her eyes. I'm Linda Crawford from Adult Protective Services. Your children have filed a complaint. They're concerned that you may not be competent to manage your own affairs. They say you're showing signs of dementia, paranoia, and making irrational financial decisions. I'm here to conduct a wellness check. My heart stopped. I looked at my children standing there on my porch and saw no guilt in their eyes, no shame, just determination. They were trying to have me declared mentally incompetent. They were trying to take control of my money by taking control of me. Y'all did this? I whispered. Y'all trying to have me locked up? Declared crazy? We're worried about you, Ma, Monique said, but her voice was flat, rehearsed. You acting strange, hoarding all that money, refusing to help family. It ain't normal. We just want to make sure you okay. I'm perfectly fine, I said to the woman. My children are lying because I won't give them money that doesn't belong to them. Ma'am, I understand this is difficult, Linda Crawford said, but I do need to come in and do an assessment. It's protocol when a complaint is filed. I wanted to slam the door in all their faces, but I knew that would only make things worse. So I stepped aside and let them in, feeling like I was letting wolves into my home. As Linda Crawford sat down with her clipboard, asking me questions about what day it was and who was president, and could I count backwards from 100, my children stood in the corner of my living room, watching, waiting, hoping I'd fail so they could swoop in and take everything I'd worked for. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. And I was fighting for my life, my freedom, and everything I'd built from nothing. I answered every single one of Linda Crawford's questions perfectly. What day was it? Wednesday, November 15th. Who was the president? I named him. Count backwards from 100 by sevens? I did it without hesitation. Name the medications I take? Blood pressure pill in the morning, vitamin D supplement at night. What did I have for breakfast? Oatmeal with blueberries and a cup of coffee. I watched my children's faces fall with each correct answer. Terrell kept trying to interrupt. But Ma, you forgot my birthday last month. You called me by Bryant's name. You left the stove on twice. I didn't forget your birthday, I said calmly. I chose not to celebrate it after you called me selfish for not giving you money. I called you by your brother's name one time because y'all favor each other and I was tired. And I never left the stove on. That was you, Terrell, when you came by to ask me to co-sign a loan for your boat. A loan I said no to. Linda Crawford wrote everything down. After 2 hours of questions, memory tests, and observations, she closed her clipboard. Mrs. Hayes, you are clearly of sound mind and fully competent. Your children's concerns appear to be unfounded. She turned to Terrell and Monique. Filing a false report with APS is a serious matter. I could pursue charges, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you were genuinely concerned. However, if you file another complaint without legitimate cause, there will be consequences. After they left, I called Mr. Thornton again. They tried to have me declared incompetent, I told him. What else can they do? His silence told me everything. Sister Hayes, you need to prepare yourself. If they're willing to go this far, they might try other things. Lawsuits, claims that you promised them money, claims that you're being influenced by others. I've seen families tear each other apart over less money than you have. What should I do? Document everything. Record conversations if you can. Virginia is a one-party consent state. Don't meet with them alone. And consider getting a restraining order if they become threatening. That Sunday, I didn't cook dinner. For the first time in 43 years, I went to church and came home to a quiet house. No children demanding to be fed. No grandchildren running through my rooms. Just peace. Lonely peace, but peace. Mother Patricia noticed. After service, she pulled me aside in the parking lot. Sister Lorraine, you ain't been yourself. What's troubling your spirit? I broke down. Right there in the church parking lot, I told her everything. The money, the children, the APS visit, all of it. She didn't look surprised. Baby, I've been watching you for years. I knew you had something put away. Smart women like you always do. And I've been watching your children too. They only come around when they need something. She squeezed my hand. You come to my house for dinner today. You ain't eating alone. At Mother Patricia's table, surrounded by church family, Deacon Williams, Sister Claudette, Brother Jerome, and Sister May, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Appreciated, seen, valued for more than what I could provide. Your children are operating in greed, Deacon Williams said, his deep voice full of wisdom. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. You need to protect yourself, Sister Hayes. Protect yourself and let God handle them. On Monday, I found out they weren't waiting for God's timing. They were making their own plans. Mr. Thornton called me at 8 in the morning. Sister Hayes, you've been served. Your children are suing you. My coffee cup slipped from my hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. Suing me? For what? They're claiming that the money in your accounts was earned during your marriage and therefore partially belongs to them as heirs to their father's estate. They're also claiming you verbally promised each of them $1 million, and they're suing for breach of contract. And Terrell is claiming you owe him $200,000 for construction work he says he did on your house over the years. I couldn't breathe. That's all lies. Robert died with $1,700 in the bank. I earned this money after he passed. I never promised them anything. And Terrell never did any work on my house. I asked him to, and he refused. I know, Sister Hayes. We'll fight this. But I need you to understand. This is going to get ugly. They're coming for everything. I've seen the filing. They want access to all your financial records. They want an accounting of every dollar. They're trying to bleed you dry in legal fees even if they don't win. The lawsuit papers arrived by courier that afternoon. Reading them felt like reading fiction. According to the documents, I was a manipulative mother who had hidden assets, broken promises, and exploited my own son's labor. They painted me as mentally declining, emotionally abusive, and financially irresponsible. They were asking for a total of $8 million. $2 million each for Terrell, Monique, and Bryant for promised gifts, and $200,000 for Terrell's unpaid labor. I called my grandchildren that evening. My oldest granddaughter, Terrell's daughter Imani, answered. She was 17, smart as a whip, and the only grandchild who ever called me just to talk. Grandma, you okay? Dad said we can't talk to you anymore. Baby, I need you to hear the truth from me, I said. Your daddy and your aunts and uncle are suing me because I won't give them my savings. They lied to people and said I was crazy. They tried to have me declared incompetent. I just need you to know that whatever they say about me, it's not true. I heard her crying. Grandma, I heard them talking. Dad said you stole money from Grandpa's life insurance. He said you've been hiding money that belonged to the family. He said you're being selfish and that's why they have to sue. Imani, baby, every word of that is a lie. Your grandpa didn't have any life insurance. When he died, I had $1,700 and 4 children to feed. I worked 3 jobs. I saved every penny I could. That money is mine because I earned it with my own hands. I believe you, Grandma, she whispered. Mom and Dad have been acting crazy. They keep talking about what they're going to buy when they get the money. They already looking at bigger houses. It's like they think you already dead. My heart cracked. Baby, I need you to do something for me. I need you to tell your brothers and sisters the truth, and I need you to know that I set up trusts for all you grandchildren, money for college for when you turn 25. Your parents can't touch it. It's yours. I made sure of that. Grandma, I love you. I love you too, baby. The next 3 months were hell. My children launched a campaign to destroy my reputation. They told family members I had dementia. They told neighbors I was being scammed. They told church members I had abandoned my family. Some people believed them. Cousins I hadn't talked to in years called to yell at me. Distant relatives came out of nowhere, demanding their share. But my real family, Mother Patricia, Deacon Williams, Sister Claudette, the people who actually showed up in my life, they stood by me. They organized a prayer circle. They sat with me during depositions. They made sure I ate and slept and didn't give up. Mr. Thornton built our case methodically. Bank records showing every deposit came after Robert's death. Affidavits from my former employer showing my salary and employment dates. Records of my side businesses. Investment account statements with my name only. Text messages and emails showing my children's neglect and their sudden interest after finding out about the money. And he found something else. Keisha had posted on Facebook 2 days after the family dinner. The post said, "About to come into some major money. God is good. New house, new cars, dream vacation, here we come." That post alone destroyed their case. The court date was set for March 3rd. I woke up that morning feeling strangely calm. I put on my purple suit, the one I'd worn to Robert's funeral 43 years ago. It still fit. I braided my silver hair and pinned it up. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a survivor. A fighter. A woman who had earned every wrinkle, every gray hair, every dollar in her account. The courtroom was full. My children sat on one side with their expensive lawyer, a slick-talking man named Richard Cross, who probably cost them $50,000 they didn't have. I sat with Mr. Thornton, and behind me sat 15 members of my church, dressed in their Sunday best, there to support me. Judge Andrea Thompson, a black woman about 50 years old with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense, presided over the case. Richard Cross started strong. He painted a picture of devoted children who had been deceived by their secretive mother. He claimed I had promised them money and now was breaking that promise. He suggested I was being manipulated by my church to donate my money to them. Then it was Mr. Thornton's turn. He put me on the stand. "Mrs. Hayes," he said gently, "can you tell the court how you acquired $38 million on a school cook's salary?" I told my story. I told them about working 3 jobs after Robert died, about learning to invest from my cousin, about saving $50 at a time and watching it grow, about living modestly so my money could work for me, about doing it all alone, without help, without handouts, without anybody believing I could. "Did you ever promise your children any specific amount of money?" Mr. Thornton asked. "No, sir, I never did." "Did Terrell Hayes ever do construction work on your home?" "No, sir. I asked him to help me with my roof 3 years ago. He said he would send someone. Nobody ever came. I have the receipt from the company I hired instead." Mr. Thornton entered the receipt into evidence. $4,000, paid to Riverside Roofing, dated exactly when I said. Then he showed the Facebook post from Keisha. The judge's eyebrows went up. "Mrs. Hayes, how did your children treat you before they found out about your money?" I took a deep breath. "They called me maybe once a month, usually when they needed something. They didn't visit unless it was a holiday, or they needed me to cook or babysit. When I was in the hospital with pneumonia, my daughter visited once for 20 minutes. When I had knee surgery, I took an Uber home because none of them could take time off work. They made me feel invisible unless they needed something from me. And after they found out, they called me selfish. They said the money was theirs. They tried to have me declared incompetent so they could control my finances. Then they sued me." My voice broke. "Your Honor, I loved my children with everything I had. I sacrificed everything to raise them right. And the moment they found out I had something they wanted, they turned into strangers." Richard Cross tried to discredit me during cross-examination, but I had the truth on my side. He asked about my memory. I recited my children's birthdays, social security numbers, and first words. He suggested I was mentally declining. I explained compound interest and portfolio diversification until the judge told him to move on. Then Mr. Thornton called Imani to the stand. My granddaughter walked in wearing her school uniform, her head held high. "Miss Hayes, you're Terrell Hayes' daughter, correct?" "Yes, sir." "Can you tell the court what you witnessed in your home after your family learned about your grandmother's money?" Imani looked at her father, and I saw tears in her eyes. "My parents started planning how to spend money they didn't have yet. They looked at houses, cars, vacation packages. My dad said Grandma was old and didn't need all that money. My mom posted on Facebook about coming into money before they even talked to Grandma about it. They told me and my brothers and sister that Grandma was being selfish and mean. But Grandma never been mean. She'd been the only one who remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding her. She'd been the only one who came to my poetry reading at school. She'd been the only one who really sees me." Terrell stood up. "Imani, sit down. You don't know what you're talking about." "Mr. Hayes, sit down," Judge Thompson said sharply. "Continue, young lady." "I heard them planning to put Grandma in a home so they could control her money. I heard them talking about getting power of attorney. They weren't worried about Grandma. They were worried about getting paid." Imani was crying now. "My grandma worked hard her whole life. She deserves to enjoy her money, And they're trying to take it away from her just because they're greedy. The courtroom was silent except for Imani's quiet sobs. Judge Thompson called a recess. When we returned, her face was granite. I've reviewed all the evidence, and I've heard testimony from both sides. This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've seen in my 20 years on the bench. She looked at my children with disgust. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Your mother worked hard to build wealth through legitimate means. She owes you nothing. The money was earned after your father's death, making your claim on marital assets baseless. There is no evidence of any verbal contract or promise. The text messages and social media posts show a clear pattern of greed and entitlement. And attempting to have your mother declared incompetent when she is clearly of sound mind borders on elder abuse. She slammed her gavel. The lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, Mrs. Hayes, if you wish to pursue a restraining order against your children, I will grant it immediately. My children's faces went white. Richard Cross was already packing his briefcase, clearly wanting to distance himself from this disaster. I don't want a restraining order, I said quietly. I just want them to leave me alone. Then I'm issuing a directive, Judge Thompson said. You four are to have no contact with your mother unless she initiates it. No calls, no visits, no letters, no social media contact. If you violate this directive, I will hold you in contempt. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Mother Patricia wrapped me in a hug. It's over, baby. You won. But I didn't feel like I'd won. I felt like I'd lost my children. Even though they'd showed me who they really were, even though they'd tried to destroy me, they were still mine. The babies I'd raised, the children I'd sacrificed everything for. Imani found me in the parking lot. Grandma, can I come live with you? I can't be in that house anymore. They're so angry and they're taking it out on everyone. I looked at my granddaughter, this beautiful girl who had the courage to tell the truth even when it meant standing against her own parents. Baby, you're 17. We'd have to do this legally. Let me talk to Mr. Thornton. Within 2 weeks, Imani moved into my spare bedroom. Terrell and Keisha didn't fight it. They were too humiliated, too angry, too broke from legal fees they couldn't afford. The other grandchildren started calling me, quietly, secretly, asking me to tell them the truth about what happened. I did. And one by one, they started to understand. My children disappeared from my life. No calls, no visits, no apologies. They'd played their hand and lost, and their pride wouldn't let them come back. But I wasn't alone. My church family became my real family. Mother Patricia and I took a trip to Paris, something I'd always wanted to do but never thought I could. Sister Claudette and I started a scholarship fund for kids at my old school who needed help. Deacon Williams helped me set up a community center that provided meals for hungry children, just like I'd done for 43 years. I started living, really living, not just surviving, not just existing, but actually enjoying the life I'd worked so hard to build. 6 months after the trial, Imani graduated as valedictorian of her high school. Her parents didn't come to the ceremony, but I was there, front row, crying proud tears as my grandbaby gave a speech about perseverance and integrity and knowing your worth. My grandmother taught me that dignity isn't about what you have, Imani said from the podium. It's about what you do with what you have. She taught me that real wealth isn't money, it's character. And she taught me that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally will show you conditions you never knew existed. But you don't have to accept those conditions. You can choose to walk away with your head held high. She looked right at me when she said it, and I knew she was going to be okay. Better than okay. She was going to be extraordinary. A year later, Bryant reached out. Just a text. Ma, I'm sorry I was wrong. Can we talk? I stared at that message for 3 days before responding. I'm not ready yet. Maybe someday. Take care of yourself. Maybe I'd forgive them eventually. Maybe not. But I'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean letting people back in to hurt you again. It means releasing the anger so it doesn't poison you. I was working on it, taking my time, protecting my peace. On my 69th birthday, I hosted a dinner at my house. Not for my children, they weren't invited, but for the family I'd chosen. Mother Patricia, Deacon Williams, Sister Claudette, Brother Jerome, Sister May, Mr. Thornton and his wife, and all 9 of my grandchildren who had come to understand the truth. We ate good food, laughed until our stomachs hurt, and thanked God for blessings that didn't come in the shape we expected. I'd spent 43 years being invisible, being taken for granted, being treated like my only value was what I could provide. Now, at 69 years old, I was finally free. Free to live on my own terms, free to choose who I shared my life with, free to protect what I'd built without apology or explanation. My phone rang while we were having dessert. It was Terrell. I looked at the number and put the phone back in my pocket. The call went to voicemail. I never listened to it, because I'd learned the most important lesson of my life. Blood doesn't make you family, and family doesn't mean you owe anybody your freedom, your dignity, or your peace. I was Lorraine Hayes, a school cook who became a millionaire, a mother who raised children who disappointed her, a grandmother who saved her grandchildren from making their parents' mistakes, a woman who fought for her right to control her own life. And I'd won, not just in court, but in the way that really mattered. I'd won back myself. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.